What if I told you that one of cinema's greatest psychological thrillers was itself a psychological experiment that went horribly wrong, that actors were manipulated so severely that careers were nearly destroyed, and one star stormed out of the premiere in absolute fury? The Usual Suspects isn't just about deception on screen. It's built on lies so twisted they make Kaiser Sosa look like an amateur. Here are 20 shocking secrets that prove the real crime happened behind the camera. Number 20. The movie that started as a joke. Before there was a script, before there was even a story, The Usual Suspects began as nothing more than a single image: 5 men in a police lineup. Writer Christopher McQuarrie saw this poster concept and thought it looked cool, but he had absolutely no idea what these men had done or who they were supposed to be. He literally built an entire Academy Award-winning screenplay around a photograph that meant nothing. The twist ending that everyone raves about? McQuarrie didn't even know who the real villain was when he started writing, but that random beginning was nothing compared to what happened when the cast thought they knew the ending. Number 19. The psychological warfare. The Shattered Trust director Bryan Singer didn't just want his actors to portray confusion, he wanted them to experience genuine betrayal. So he did something that would be considered psychological manipulation by today's standards. Singer told each major actor a completely different version of who Kaiser Sosa really was. Gabriel Burns was convinced with absolute certainty that his character Dean Keaton was the mastermind. Stephen Baldwin believed it was his character. Kevin Pollak thought he was the chosen one. They weren't just acting confused, they were living in actual uncertainty every single day on set. Burns especially threw himself into the role, believing he was carrying the film's biggest secret. When the truth was finally revealed at the cast screening, Burns reportedly stood up, visibly shaken, and walked out before the credits finished rolling. He felt personally betrayed, not just professionally deceived. Speaking of betrayal, the only person who knew the real truth was hiding something even darker. Number 18. Kevin Spacey's hidden performance genius. While everyone else was drowning in Singer's web of lies, Kevin Spacey was the only actor who knew from day one that Verbal Kint was Kaiser Sosa. This gave him an almost unfair advantage that nobody realized until years later. Watch his performance again, and you'll notice something chilling. He's not just playing a harmless storyteller. He's playing a master manipulator pretending to be harmless. Every stutter, every nervous glance, every moment of apparent weakness was carefully calculated. Spacey knew that Verbal's limp would disappear at the end, so he made sure it looked just fake enough to seem suspicious on rewatch. His Academy Award wasn't just for good acting, it was for pulling off one of cinema's greatest long cons while his co-stars remained completely clueless. But Spacey's deception was nothing compared to the real-life monster that inspired his character. Number 17. The true crime horror that created Kaiser Sosa. Kaiser Sosa wasn't born from McQuarrie's imagination. He was inspired by one of America's most chilling family annihilators. John List seemed like the perfect suburban father until the day he methodically executed his wife, mother, and 3 children in their New Jersey home. Then he simply vanished, creating a new identity and living as a respected member of another community for nearly 18 years. When List was finally caught, neighbors couldn't believe the quiet church-going man they knew was capable of such calculated evil. McQuarrie used this terrifying reality as Sosa's foundation, a man so methodical and cold that he could commit unspeakable acts and then disappear into plain sight. The most frightening villains aren't the ones who look dangerous, they're the ones who look like everyone else. But the character's name itself almost destroyed someone's life before the film even premiered. Number 16. The name that nearly ended a friendship. Here's something that could have landed McQuarrie in serious legal trouble. The original script didn't feature anyone named Kaiser Sosa. The villain was called Kaiser Soom, named directly after Jeff Soom, McQuarrie's former boss. It started as an inside joke. McQuarrie thought it would be hilarious to immortalize his old supervisor as cinema's most feared criminal mastermind. The joke stopped being funny when Soom discovered what McQuarrie had done. Imagine finding out that your name was about to become synonymous with a child-killing, family-destroying monster in what could potentially be a major motion picture. Soom was furious and demanded the name be changed immediately. That simple letter swap from Soom to Sosa may have saved McQuarrie from a lawsuit, but it also accidentally created one of cinema's most menacing villain names. However, even with the name change, the studio was convinced audiences would never be able to say it correctly. Number 15. The pronunciation panic that almost killed marketing. When executives first saw the completed film, they panicked about something nobody expected: the villain's name. Kaiser Sosa didn't sound like anything audiences had heard before, and marketing departments were terrified that moviegoers wouldn't know how to pronounce it, remember it, or talk about it with friends. The solution was brilliantly simple. They created the Who is Kaiser Sosa campaign, repeating the name everywhere: posters, trailers, interviews, promotional materials. By the time the movie hit theaters, the name had been drilled into potential audiences' heads so thoroughly that pronunciation was no longer an issue. The campaign worked so well that Kaiser Sosa became a cultural reference point, even for people who'd never seen the film. But while marketing worried about pronunciation, the cast was dealing with a much more embarrassing problem. Number 14. The gas attack that created an iconic scene. The police lineup scene is one of the most quoted and memorable moments in cinema history. What most fans don't realize is that it was never supposed to be funny. Bryan Singer envisioned a tense, serious moment where each character's personality would shine through subtle expressions and body language. Instead, he got uncontrollable laughter and complete chaos. The culprit, Benicio del Toro, had an unfortunate case of gas that day and kept farting during takes. Every time the actors tried to deliver their lines seriously, someone would break character and start laughing. After multiple failed attempts at capturing the serious version, Singer finally gave up and used the take where everyone was barely holding it together. That moment of genuine childish humor became one of the film's most beloved scenes. Del Toro's digestive issues weren't his only contribution to the film's chaotic energy. Number 13. The mumbling method. That confused everyone. Benicio del Toro showed up to play Fenster with an idea that nobody understood. He was going to make his character completely unintelligible. His voice was so mumbled and slurred that even his fellow actors had trouble understanding what he was saying during scenes. Writer Christopher McQuarrie and director Bryan Singer initially hated the choice, thinking it would confuse audiences and slow down the film's pace. But Del Toro refused to change his approach. He believed the strange voice made Fenster more mysterious and unpredictable. What made it even better was that the other actors' confused reactions were completely genuine. They really couldn't understand what he was saying half the time. Those moments of natural bewilderment made the scenes feel more authentic and added an extra layer of uncertainty to an already confusing story. While Del Toro was confusing his co-stars with his voice, the film's budget was confusing Hollywood executives. Number 12. The $6 million rejection. The Usual Suspects was made for just $6 million, which sounds like nothing compared to today's blockbuster budgets. But here's the thing. Major studios wouldn't even give McQuarrie and Singer that small amount. The script was considered too confusing, too dark, and too risky for mainstream audiences. Studio executives read the twisty plot and decided that moviegoers weren't smart enough to follow it. The film only got made because of independent financing and the desperation of a young director and writer who were willing to work for almost nothing. They had just 35 days to shoot everything, using minimal locations and no expensive special effects. The tiny budget forced them to focus entirely on story and performances, which is exactly what made the film so powerful. Sometimes the best art comes from having no other choice. Speaking of limited choices, one major star walked away from the project entirely. Number 11. Al Pacino's $1 million mistake. Al Pacino was offered the role of Agent Dave Cujon, the determined cop trying to unravel Verbal's story. This was before the film had major funding or star power, so Pacino's involvement would have instantly legitimized the project and opened studio doors. Instead, he passed on the role without much consideration, probably viewing it as just another low-budget crime thriller that would disappear quickly. Chaz Palminteri took the role instead and delivered a fantastic performance. But imagine how different film history might have been with Pacino interrogating Kevin Spacey. When The Usual Suspects became a critical and commercial success, Pacino publicly admitted that turning down the role was one of his biggest career mistakes. Even legendary actors sometimes can't spot a classic when it's sitting right in front of them. But Pacino wasn't the only big name who missed out on the phenomenon. Number 10. Michael Biehn's scheduling disaster. Before Stephen Baldwin was cast as the hot-headed McManus, the role was offered to Michael Biehn, the tough guy actor known for Terminator and Aliens. Biehn was interested in the script and thought the character would be a perfect fit for his action hero persona. Everything seemed lined up for him to join the cast. Then he made a decision that probably still haunts him. Biehn had already committed to starring in a film called Jade with David Caruso, and he felt obligated to honor that commitment. So he walked away from The Usual Suspects to fulfill his contractual obligation. Jade bombed at the box office and is barely remembered today, while The Usual Suspects became a cultural phenomenon. Sometimes loyalty costs more than anyone expects. While Bean was making scheduling mistakes, the filmmakers were making creative choices that seemed equally questionable. Number 9. The backyard movie magic. With such a tiny budget, the crew had to get extremely creative about locations and setups. Some of the film's most crucial close-up shots weren't filmed on expensive sets or rented studio spaces. They were shot in director Bryan Singer's backyard. About 30 close-up shots of hands, faces, and objects were captured in Singer's personal outdoor space. Since these shots only showed small details without revealing the background, no one in the audience could tell they were looking at someone's backyard instead of a professional film set. The scenes were edited so seamlessly that they appeared to take place in the same locations as the rest of the film. It was guerrilla filmmaking at its finest, proof that creativity matters more than cash when you're trying to tell a compelling story. But some creative choices were completely accidental. Number 8. The envelope sequence. Nobody noticed, hidden in plain sight, is one of the film's most subtle and brilliant details that even hardcore fans miss on multiple viewings. When the 5 main characters receive their manila envelopes containing job details, the order in which they're handed out seems random and meaningless. It's not. The sequence in which they receive those envelopes is exactly the same order in which their characters die throughout the film. This wasn't mentioned in dialogue or highlighted by the camera. It was just a quiet detail that McQuarrie and Singer included for the few viewers who might catch it on repeat viewings. It's the kind of meticulous planning that separates great films from good ones. Every element serves the story, even the parts that most people will never consciously notice. Speaking of things people didn't notice, there was a slip of the tongue that revealed everything. Number 7. The confession, hidden in plain sight. During one of Verbal's long, rambling stories to Agent Kujan, there's a moment where he accidentally reveals the truth and nobody catches it. While describing the events on the boat, Verbal says, "I did kill Keaton," instead of "Keaton was killed," or "someone killed Keaton." It's a tiny slip that flies by so quickly that even Kujan misses it. But that momentary confession is huge. It's one of the first times Verbal drops his innocent act and accidentally speaks as Kaiser Sosa. The line was left in the film deliberately. McQuarrie and Singer wanted careful viewers to catch it on rewatches and realize that the truth was hiding in plain sight all along. It's a perfect example of how the best plot twists don't come out of nowhere. They're built on foundations that were there from the beginning. The foundation for the film's success was built on something equally unexpected. Number 6. The K.D. Lang song that changed everything. The haunting music that plays during the film's legendary ending, as Verbal's limp disappears and Agent Kujan pieces together the truth, wasn't composed in a traditional way. Editor and composer John Ottman was struggling to find the right emotional tone for that crucial sequence when he accidentally played K.D. Lang's song, "Wash Me Clean," while reviewing the footage. The song had nothing to do with crime thrillers or film scores, but its emotional progression was perfect. It started soft and introspective, then slowly built to an overwhelming realization. Ottman didn't copy the melody, but he used its emotional blueprint to create the score that guides viewers through that mind-bending finale. Sometimes the best inspiration comes from completely unexpected places, but the film's most unexpected element was a character who was supposed to be completely different. Number 5. The age change that transformed Fenster. In the original script, Benicio del Toro's character Fenster was written as a much older, weathered criminal. Think Harry Dean Stanton type. The filmmakers wanted a veteran actor who could bring gravitas and quiet menace to the role. Fenster was supposed to be the wise, experienced member of the group who'd seen everything and said little. Then Del Toro auditioned with his bizarre, mumbling interpretation, and everything changed. Instead of the oldest and wisest, Fenster became the strangest and most unpredictable. His youth and weirdness created a completely different dynamic within the group. Sometimes the best creative decisions come from throwing out the original plan and embracing something nobody expected. Speaking of unexpected creative decisions, one of them involved real gemstones. Number 4. The real emerald gamble. During the scene where the characters discuss stealing emeralds, most viewers assume they're looking at cheap movie props, colored glass or plastic designed to look like precious stones. They're not. The filmmakers used actual, genuine emeralds for those shots because they wanted the gems to look absolutely convincing on camera. Using real emeralds on a $6 million film set was an incredible risk. These stones were expensive, fragile, and easy to lose or damage. The crew had to be extremely careful during filming, and security was a constant concern. But that extra effort paid off. The emeralds looked legitimate because they were legitimate. It's a perfect example of how small details can make a huge difference in a film's overall believability. But the biggest gamble wasn't financial, it was creative. Number 3. Gabriel Burns' scheduling salvation. Gabriel Burns almost walked away from the project entirely, and it had nothing to do with the script or the role. He loved the character of Dean Keaton and was excited about the film's potential. But there was a major scheduling conflict with another project he'd committed to. The original shooting dates didn't work for his availability, and he was prepared to pass on the role. Director Bryan Singer refused to lose Burns. He believed Gabriel was perfect for Keaton and that the film wouldn't work without him. So Singer rearranged the entire filming schedule to accommodate Burns' availability. That flexibility saved one of the film's most crucial performances. Burns' portrayal of the conflicted ex-cop was central to making the audience believe he could be Kaiser Sosa right up until the final revelation. But even Burns didn't know he was being set up for the biggest deception of all. Number 2. The Devil's quote that became legendary. The film's most quoted line. "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist." Sounds like something Christopher McQuarrie created specifically for the movie. It's not. The quote has a much older and more mysterious origin, with some attributing it to French poet Charles Baudelaire, and others claiming it came from various short stories and essays. McQuarrie took this existing piece of wisdom and placed it perfectly within his story. The line works on multiple levels. It describes Kaiser Sosa's method of operation, it foreshadows the film's central deception, and it captures the entire theme of hidden evil in plain sight. Sometimes the best original writing involves knowing exactly when to borrow from something that already exists. But the film's greatest trick was saved for its final revelation. Number 1. The ultimate deception that fooled everyone. Here's the truth that changes everything about The Usual Suspects. The entire film is Kaiser Sosa's confession. Every story verbal tells, every detail he shares, every seemingly random element. It's all true, just rearranged and reframed to hide his role in everything. He's not making up elaborate lies. He's telling the actual story, while positioning himself as the innocent bystander instead of the mastermind. This means that when you watch the film again, you're not looking for clues about who Kaiser Sosa is. You're watching Kaiser Sosa himself narrate his own greatest triumph while pretending to be its victim. The bulletin board and coffee cup don't just show us that Verbal is making things up. They show us how a brilliant mind can take real information and weaponize it into the perfect cover story. The Usual Suspects isn't just a movie about a criminal fooling a cop. It's about a criminal fooling an entire audience while confessing to everything he's done. That's the real trick the devil pulled. He convinced the world he was just a harmless storyteller when he was actually bragging about his greatest achievement. Every twist, every revelation, every shocking moment was built on this foundation of truth hidden in plain sight. The film didn't just change how movies could tell stories. It proved that the most effective deceptions are the ones that never feel like lies at all. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most unsettling truth of all. Which of these secrets left you questioning everything you thought you knew about The Usual Suspects, the psychological manipulation of the cast, the real-life killer who inspired Kaiser Sosa, or that mind-bending revelation that the entire film is actually a confession disguised as a story? But here's the thing. The Usual Suspects is just the tip of the iceberg. Hollywood is packed with dark secrets, twisted behind-the-scenes stories, and shocking truths that make this film look tame. Did you know that one of the most beloved family movies of all time was actually cursed, leading to mysterious deaths and unexplained accidents? Or that a legendary action star was secretly replaced by a stunt double for an entire film because of a scandal so explosive it could have ended his career? If you're hungry for more jaw-dropping revelations that will completely change how you see your favorite films, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're diving deep into the darkest corners of cinema history, uncovering secrets that studios never wanted you to discover. From Oscar-winning performances built on lies to blockbuster films that nearly destroyed lives, we're exposing the truth behind the magic. Drop a comment below telling us which movie secret you want us to investigate next. Trust me, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than you think, and some of these stories will leave you wondering if anything in Hollywood is actually what it seems. Don't miss out on the revelations that are coming. Your favorite movie might never look the same again.